Another example is uh, a company that did quite some data analytics at Deutsche was referred to you, and now they built a business with your Natcos in Asia, and that's exactly like also broadening the horizon. What you also meant, everyone is always looking to the West, to US, but Asia actually is like a booming market, and lots of opportunities are there. And maybe you elaborate a bit on how you attract the companies also out of Europe towards your countries and how attractive those countries are.
It is challenging, there's no doubt. I mean, from my days in running startups, I had a tendency to look quite often outside of America because US companies are often overfunded and they're on home territory. In terms of Asia, it's obviously a huge market and a very different market. Every country is quite unique and in a different place in its development. Within our own footprint, there are lots of almost secrets. Countries like Indonesia, which is the fourth biggest country in the world, and most people have never heard of it, and don't look at that as a go-to-market. So we do a lot of work in promoting the territory, but we've also recognized we must have feet on the ground. And as a result, we have 5 offices, including a great team and an office here in Israel, San Francisco, Sydney, Beijing, and Singapore. And then creating this alliance with yourselves as partners so that we try and get insights from around the globe and then really promote our own territories. But we also make sure that we deal with mature startups. So aside from asking a startup what they can do, we also ask them, are they really ready to come into our market? Do they have the resources, the funding, the desire, the patience to actually enter that market and to give us the kind of support we need? So that in itself filters out quite a lot. I imagine you must find similar challenges, particularly in the Latin American market.
Yeah, I love what you said about maturity, right? I mean, we are probably the worst first customer that you can have as a startup, right? I mean, we are probably one of the best 10th to 20th customer because we can bring you at scale, but you need to be ready. And being ready, you need to be able to survive longer procurement processes, to be technically ready, and to have an established sales team that can work with our teams, right? So we face this a lot. At the beginning, we're mostly investing and working with very early seed stage startups, and it doesn't work very well. Now we have over 100 companies working with Telefónica globally, and they need to be already in a stage where they have product market fit, at least in one country, and it can be LATAM, it can be Europe, or it can be elsewhere. We also look in Silicon Valley and Israel. One point around this readiness or this maturity, I would say is you can be telco ready. Because you've seen here that most of the needs of Singtel, Telefónica, Deutsche Telekom, Orange are very similar. We have strategically similar approaches. Then you can have your own differences. But if you think about the broader picture, similar companies with little overlap geographically and with same strategic roadmaps. So once you're able to work with one of us, it's much more easier to show a tangible business result and work with the rest of us. So this is how the alliance can help you a lot, that once you're able to pass all the hurdles of the first one, we can help you to bring it at scale to the rest. And we're always looking about what the others are doing.
Eric, I'm opening up a risk here, but what would you like to see us do maybe differently that could help accelerate your engagement with the telcos and your go-to-market?
I would like everybody to come to me and say, okay, I want to buy your stuff. But actually what we are doing now, we're working especially with Europe and the Far East right now, and we are preparing ourselves to go to America. And in order to work in America, you either need to be born in the USA or you need to have a foot on the ground, as you said, and for that you need some funding. So we are preparing ourselves. I guess that we are a bit lucky because we deal with security of firmware, and firmware is also the holy grail of every hacker, and I can tell you that from the dark side of the moon. This is the place where people want to put their hand into in order to manipulate the code. And that is a wide and horizontal problem. So I hope we're gonna, not hope, we are going to find the right channels to work through, because you cannot be in the same effort all over the world.
Francois, I think it's only fair we should flip the question as well. What would you like to see startups do more commonly or differently to make them easier for us to do business with?
Kind of tricky question, you know. In fact, what we like also when we work with startups is the way that they can react very easily. They're very fast, very anyway, sometimes what we lack is industrial processes, industrial products. Of course, it's not a business, but we are industrial companies, and this is where we got to make sure that we match and we have the same mindset regarding the cooperation that we can do. Also, something I would like to add is that we are cooperating in terms of working with startups and selecting good startups and things. But we're also cooperating together in some cases in terms of co-innovation between, for instance, between Orange and Deutsche Telekom. We work together on the personal voice assistant. It's called Jingo in France. It's called Magenta in Germany. And of course, we are looking also for additional services in this kind of device or service. And we will provide the core services, but startups will provide many additional services based on this device. And the way that you can integrate, if you integrate with Orange or Deutsche Telekom, it will work also with Deutsche Telekom and Orange. So it makes it a even bigger market for the startups.
Bian, as your product is not what I would call telecoms, and obviously that's where many of us as companies originate from, but the telcos are expanding way beyond traditional ICT. How do you find it is in educating them to get them to understand new market opportunities?
So I'll answer that in two aspects. One, with the products that are related to smart home and elderly care, I think that I didn't need to do too much education, because this is already something that all the telcos are exploring as an additional service that they want to provide to their existing customers. The dialogue or the education was more on what can be achieved, how it can be done, and how to do that integration between products and the infrastructure existing by the telcos. A second aspect of the company is the ability to integrate into existing routers and even 5G repeaters. Our technology can help in enhancing the ranges of the reception of those devices, which is really hardcore telco related. And I think one of the challenges that I have in general, not only with this industry, is because our technology is so generic and it can provide a lot of scenarios. In some cases, the need, as was defined here, to have a business unit that knows what he wants to get and then derive a request from a technology provider. In some cases, like broad technology, it's not very, it's not the best option, because we can provide a set of options that can now propagate ideas of what to do with that. And you know your business much better than us, the startups, and the dialogue of what potential needs versus what potentially can be achieved without a business at the initial stage can allow a lot of innovation to happen.
I apologize, we're actually out of time, so if I may just round up and say that if you are a technology and solution provider, amongst this group of companies here, aside from having access to say, actually in excess of 1.3 billion customers, around the globe. We also help hundreds of startups every year, from incubation, acceleration, venture capital, and many hundreds that get commercial deals, both to supply us as customers and partners in go-to-market. And so please do take the opportunity to come and speak to us as a group or individually. Your success is our success and vice versa. So thank you very much.